welcome to Spotlight. I'm Rian Keating. Joining us today, we are privileged to have Theresa Saldana. Theresa, welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you.
You've had a very interesting career in that you've played a lot of diversified roles, the most recent of which is co-starring with Charles Bronson.
Yes. It's a new feature film which is coming out, I believe, in February. It's called The Evil That Men Do. And I play a Central American woman who has lost her husband, and she goes off with Charlie on a big mission to find the man who killed him. And it's a really interesting film, and it is a departure for a Charles Bronson movie in that there are quite a number of book scenes, real dialogue scenes between his character and my character. And it was really terrific. We shot in Mexico for 2 months, and it was very exciting, and he's really a terrific person to work with, and I just can't wait till the film comes out.
How do you think it will be received?
I think it'll be received very well, because we've been hearing really good things about the screenings that are going on in LA, and I know the producers and the writer, and those people are really happy with it. I haven't seen it yet.
Is it taken from a novel, or is it an original screenplay?
No, it was a novel called The Evil That Men Do, and it's pretty loosely, I believe, based on that story. But everything I've heard is very positive, and I know when I went in to do the looping or dubbing, I saw parts of it, and the clips that I saw looked really good.
Well, that sounds terrific. You had just done a backers audition for a new musical.
Yeah, that was very exciting, too. That's what brought me to New York this time. It's called Lisa and David, and it's based on the book by Dr. Rubin, Lisa and David. Now, after the book, they made a film version called David and Lisa, but this musical is really based on the original book. And we were very lucky that Dr. Rubin himself was at the performance, and Bess Meyerson was there, a lot of big people in the theater. And it's a really, really interesting book, an adaptation. And the music is by Roger Nelson. It's just beautiful and very different. And the book and lyrics were written by John Driver, who was also directing, and he was involved with writing Scrambled Feet and Chekhov at Yalta, which is going to be done on Broadway next season. And so it's a really talented group of people, and I really have a lot of confidence in the show, and they're now looking for a place to do it, and I really think they'll succeed in getting a production.
Is it a two-character musical?
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's a terrific role in terms of Lisa, and David is also a tremendous role, but there are other good parts around the psychiatrist. For example, they're smart enough to build a sideline story, a subplot around the psychiatrist, so that we do have a love interest between two normal people, and then there's the love interest between David and Lisa, who are emotionally disturbed. And also there's quite a lot of imagery and some very unusual theatrical style.
Well, it sounds very interesting. Do you think because it's dealing primarily with people who are emotionally disturbed, there'll be that large a market for it?
I think there will. I really think there will, because David and Lisa was a very successful film. The book was very successful, and there's something very uplifting about it. Both of the adolescents who are disturbed do end up making phenomenal progress, so it's very uplifting. And also, they have injected elements of humor into it, so it isn't really a down story just about two kids who are crazy. It really is a progressive series of scenes in which you see them alternating between their levels of being disturbed and coming back to reality, and in the end it is a positive ending. So I think it's going to really do well.
Do you think that musical theater as a whole is taking a turn towards shows that are closer to the heart? Because off-Broadway you have Taking My Turn, which deals with a very serious subject as well.
I think so. I think we're starting to realize we need soul in musicals, and there's a lot of razzmatazz, and that's great too, and it's a tremendous amount of fun, but I think you can really affect people and reach out to people through music as well.
You had grown up in Brooklyn, and your original dream was to be a dancer.
Yeah.
How did you become interested in dance?
Well, I was actually, when I was very little, I used to follow my mother around constantly. I was very, very attached to her, overly attached, and the doctor suggested that she send me to a dancing school. And so I spent quite a number of weeks sitting there in the class screaming and crying until I realized I'd have to go anyway. So I started dancing at about the age of 2 and just fell in love with dance. And I was really planning to be a dancer until I was about 12 or 13. And at that time I was in a tumbling team, and I had an accident and really severely hurt my shoulder. So I was in a body cast and I couldn't dance for about 2 years, which at that age is really a serious problem because you're really getting ready to become a professional. And a friend's mother suggested acting school. And I had never even known there was such a thing as acting school. So I went ahead and I enrolled in acting classes in Manhattan, which my parents were not very happy about. And it was a tremendous outlet for me, and I realized that I could continue dancing and explore singing and music, but that primarily I wanted to be an actress and use music and dance as part of my acting. But I found the best way of expressing myself was through acting.
But do you feel up until the time that you had your gymnastics accident that you used dance as a catharsis for expressing yourself?
Oh, sure, I did. I let out a lot of energy and excitement, and I tended to get roles even when I was young doing dance recitals that were kind of character. And
how did it feel to realize that you suddenly had a voice and you could use words to express yourself?
Oh, it was great. I think I didn't really know what I was missing, and I certainly had no idea that there was such a thing as acting school. And it was really exciting, especially since usually with young people you start out with improvisation, and that can be really, really exciting in terms of your growth as a young person too, not just as an actor. And it was just so much fun, and I got to meet so many interesting people in my classes. We really had quite a cross-section of kids.
How did your peers react to your performing aspirations?
Well, that was a mixed reaction. Some of them were very proud of me and they liked it, and then others just shunned me and felt that I was really too highfalutin or whatever, to have such aspirations at a young age. And
at what point did you realize that that's what you wanted to do with your life?
I always knew I would be a performer. From the very early age, my first wish was to be a tightrope walker. So it's gone, around different areas. But even when I was about 3, I remember telling people I wanted to be an entertainer of some kind, and I would get very jealous when I would watch shows on television where there were child actors or performers. I would just become enraged that they were up there and I wasn't.
Well, you had done a lot of summer stock while you were still in high school.
Yeah. I was an apprentice, and I did lots of dinner theater and showcases around the city, and just really getting as much experience as I could and taking many, many lessons. And when I was quite young, I signed with my manager, Selma Rubin, and she's been guiding my career ever since. And I just loved it. It was something that I needed to do. Just going to school was not enough. Playing sports was not enough. I really needed to go into this business.
There was a time where you were going to school half days, and then you would, an all-girls Catholic school, and then you would run into Greenwich Village and be a waitress.
Yes.
Now, what did the nuns think of this?
Well, they did not like it. I was going to high school from 7 in the morning till 1. And I wore this Catholic school uniform. And then I would get on the subway and I would go into the village and I would be a waitress at Blimpies on McDougal and Bleecker. And it was just such a strange dichotomy the way my life was. And then from there I would then go to HB Studio where I was taking acting lessons, and then on the weekends I went to Circle in the Square where I took a teenage workshop, and I was taking speech lessons and singing lessons and any kind of lessons involved in the theater that you can imagine, all at the same time. I don't know how I did it really. I guess that's why I now have a very full schedule and it doesn't boggle my mind. I really like doing many things in one day.
Well, you would have decided after high school not to go to college right away. And how did this decision affect your parents?
Well, they thought I was making a huge mistake because I was going to a highly academic school and doing well, and they really thought I should explore my mind and not go directly into the business, at least give myself a chance to work on some academics. But I really felt such a need to go into it. I did not want to sit just with books, and I didn't even want to major in theater because I'd had such a solid background already in Manhattan with really professional classes already, and I'd already worked with professional people and was getting paid for doing what I loved to do, so I figured I should just go right into it. And that's what I did, and I've managed over the past couple of years to go to college sporadically on the side. I don't have my degree yet, but I have quite a number of credits.
Did you find going back into an educational institution difficult?
No, I didn't. It was very refreshing because it was my choice. And I'm very almost fanatical about what I do, so that when I went back to school, I really, really hit the books, and I really worked very hard, and I would be shooting a guest shot or something, or doing a film, and I'd have my school books in the trailer with me, and I'd be studying for an exam, and it was quite interesting.
When you had started out your career as an actress, you became successful quite young. And have you felt any repercussions from that?
No, I really haven't, because I feel it was a professional thing. I started earning a living very young, but I knew I was doing it because of hard work. It wasn't as though I just suddenly walked into somewhere and someone said, "Oh, what a pretty little girl," and started putting me on television. It was really something that I started very young, and I was always very disciplined in my training, so that by the time I was earning money as an actress, it was really because of the hard work involved. And the work itself, of course, is difficult and time-consuming, and I've never stopped studying and training along the way. So I never really felt that kind of undeserved glory or whatever. I feel that I'm a hard worker, and that I give my all, and I'm very disciplined, and it just happens to be the field that I'm in, and I'm glad that I'm lucky enough to make a living doing this.
You have a theory that when one goes to an audition, one should dress for the part, no matter what the part may be. And it's helped you get quite a few parts.
Yes. I believe in that. Some people don't. Some people believe that you should go in just as yourself and have a pretty straight interview. But I've pretty much learned that I tend to book roles more when I go dressed as whatever the character may be. And I've been lucky enough in films and in television to play a very, very broad spectrum of characters, so that when I would go in for example, a teenage nymphette, I would go there with lots of makeup on and tight jeans and a tube top or something like that, and really go in there chewing gum and being whatever the character meant. And then, for example, I played an American Indian, and I went with braids and very heavy makeup, and I told them I was a Cherokee. I really did.
And they bought it?
Yes, and that was my first principal work. That was my first principal work on television.
That was on a Kojak special?
Yes. So I found things like that have worked, and I go in, for example, sometimes using an accent if an accent is required. I've studied Italian for 5 months for a role that I did once, and I usually do a lot of research as much as I can even before the audition, and I feel that it helps. It helps them to actually see it right in front of their eyes, so that they don't have to imagine what it will look like when it's dressed.
When you're an actress, and a lot of it depends on your physical attributes, how important do you think that good looks really are?
Well, I think looks are important. Sometimes they don't always have to be good looks. For example, you can be a terrific character person and be really funny looking. And in that case, almost the more funny looking you are, or the fatter you are, the more it can work for you. I don't think everyone has to be a raving beauty. Perhaps it's more important in film that you're photogenic, at least, that you look well on camera. But I don't think it's important to be a great beauty unless those are the kind of roles you're looking for. Obviously, someone who is absolutely stunning may have a better chance at getting, for example, the lead on a series where they have to be just a beautiful, gorgeous girl. And those girls don't necessarily have to have really intense training, from what I've seen.
Well, you have the example of Farrah Fawcett, who's just now trying to become a serious actress.
Yeah.
So it could be more of a hindrance than a help.
And to some people, I'm sure it is. To some people, I've heard a lot of very beautiful models complain that they aren't given enough diverse roles because they're so typecast by their own glamour.
How have you avoided typecasting?
I'm not afraid to look like the character I'm playing. That's what it is. If I like to look pretty, and I like being made to look pretty, but if I have to look like someone who's unattractive or downtrodden, I'm not afraid to take the makeup off or even put makeup on, which will make me look less attractive. I'm not afraid to gain or lose weight for a role. I'm not afraid to pull my hair back into a bun and, adopt some kind of posture that will not look very pretty. So I think that's what it is. I don't keep up a glamour look all the time. I do it by choice. And therefore I'm glad that I'm able to play character roles as well as leading ladies.
You gained a lot of prominence with a show called The New York City Street Scene.
Yeah, the New York City Street Show. That was here in New York. And it was a showcase which went on and became an equity show, ran for almost a year. And that's when I really started booking with a lot of agencies and getting sent out more for film and commercials and things like that. And just about a week or two after that show closed, I got my first feature film. And then I went off to Los Angeles, and ever since I've been going back and forth from coast to coast.
And that was I Want to Hold Your Hand?
The first film was Nunzio in New York, and that's the one in which I played a kind of sexy teenager. And then I went out to LA, and within about 6 weeks I booked I Want to Hold Your Hand, which was a starring role. And it was about 6 teenagers who were, for various reasons, driven to go and see the Beatles concert in the 60s. And I played a really ambitious little high school photographer in that. Very clean cut, which was a nice contrast for my second role.
That film gained you a lot of national prominence. And when all of a sudden you're the center of media attention, how do you maintain your privacy? How do you know when to withdraw into yourself and maintain your space?
Well, basically I always have enjoyed being with my family, and I have spent a lot of time over the years with my family and gone to lots of family events, and there are many places and many friends who live in different states. I go off and visit them, and so I do have places I go to be completely private. And when there is a movie out currently and you're walking in the streets, you do have that added recognition factor. Even then, during I Want to Hold Your Hand, I'll never forget walking down Fifth Avenue and just being stopped by flocks of kids. And the film was not a tremendous success, but it was currently running, and there were enough people seeing it that I was getting stopped and asked for autographs for the first time, really, and it was quite an experience.
You've worked with some of the industry's top directors, among them Brian De Palma and Scorsese. What do you look for in terms of a good director? Well,
every director is different. Some of the best directors say very, very little. And some of them are into doing improvisation. Some like to rehearse, some don't. I enjoy working with different kinds of directors because as long as they know what they're going for and they have confidence in you as an actress, then you're pretty much in the right ballpark and you can work together. I also don't mind when a director's very strong and knows what he's going for. It gives me very specific, clear directions. I really like taking direction too, or collaborating. That's really my favorite kind of director, is someone who wants to collaborate with you.
You're going to be playing yourself on NBC come next year in a film based on your experience with Victims for Victims.
Yeah.
And how do you think that's going to change your perception of your career, playing yourself?
Well, it is a rather odd thing to do, but there are a number of reasons why I'm doing it. To get back to what happened is that I was attacked about a year and a half ago because a man who was in Scotland saw me in a film called Defiance, which I starred in opposite Jan Michael Vincent. And he saw me in this film, became fixated with me, and traveled to the United States with the only intention being to murder me. And he almost succeeded. His attack on my life resulted in my spending 3.5 months in the hospital and becoming a victim of a violent crime. And I went through such horrible experiences as a crime victim that I felt I needed to form an organization which would send former victims out to meet with more recent victims.
Now, there was a Miriam Schneider who was very influential.
Right. What happened was, at the end of my hospitalization, I met, by coincidence, Miriam Schneider, who was a former school teacher, and she had been shot in the classroom, and we found we had a lot in common, and that's what prompted the idea, really. I somehow realized that although we didn't have that much in common as people, that experience of being victimized really gave us an instant rapport. And so with her help and with the help of quite a number of other people, we formed the organization Victims for Victims. It's doing very well in LA now. It's almost a year old, and we are eventually going to go national. We're a self-help group, and we help other victims. And what's going on with the NBC movie is I'm hoping to focus attention on victims of violent crime. And what we'll be doing is a very personal story. It won't be a kind of cut and dry thing about an organization being formed or just about the legal repercussions. It will follow the event itself, the attack, the aftermath of the attack, specifically myself, my family, the problems it created. And in that way we can show the viewers the problems of a victim without being very technical, just showing it through a family story, which will be quite dramatic. And hopefully it will focus attention in the way that Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the Candy Lightner story, MAD, did on television. It really, really helped that situation with drunk driving, and I hope that this NBC movie will do the same thing for victims of crime.
Was there much federal funding available for Victims for Victims?
No, we're not funded federally. We're really only now operating on private and corporate donations. We're not funded as of now. We're a nonprofit organization. So that's an important part of my life now, too. But they're very understanding because I do run the organization when I'm in Los Angeles, but I do have the freedom. I have a lot of people around me who are very strong in the group, and they realize that I have to be an actress and that I have professional things to go on with, and that it's important for me, for my mental health and for my happiness, to continue being an actress. So I'm not constantly involved always with Victims for Victims. I always have my hand in there somewhere and I know what's happening. But I do have the freedom to, for example, come to New York and do things like Lisa and David. And
having taken such a negative experience and channeled it in such a positive manner, in a way that will help others, how has it changed your perception of your acting career?
Well, it's made me realize the impact it can have on people's lives. It's made me see that acting is something very creative. In the beginning, I went through a period where I almost thought, well, I can't do something like this. I should begin to be more political. I must write. And I do plan to write. I enjoy writing, and I do go around and lecture and give speeches, things like that, pertaining to the issue of victimization. But I realized that for me, the best way to express myself is through acting. And there is something very, very beautiful about being able to express yourself in this way. And you really do touch people's lives. I feel that in the roles I play, in the works that I do. I find it very exciting to work on new pieces with other people, with young, talented people who are creating new works. It's works of art. So I think that I have found that it's given me even more love for the work that I do. Once I made that decision to really stay with it and continue in the work, it's made me love it and appreciate it even more because I can come out of myself.
Do you prefer to work in television or films or live theater?
I like doing it all. I mean, luckily I've been able to go back and forth and do theater and then go and do a movie and do some TV, and they're very, very different kinds of things. There are different styles of acting involved, but you meet different people, and you have a whole different experience. In film, you have a kind of family environment, especially if you're on location, for example, and you don't have that instant gratification that you do in theater. But in theater, there's that outpouring of love that you get immediately with the applause. So that's very exciting. And then you have musical theater, which has the added element of singing and dancing and doing that kind of excitement. And so it's all very different, and I think it's healthy to do a little bit of each and keep going back and forth.
You recently did a club act at Dangerfield singing, and how did that feel, having done not much of that?
It was fun. It was fun. I've done some club work out in Los Angeles too. That's a different kind of thing. I wouldn't want to do that full time, but it's interesting as something additional. And it's a lot of fun. You have a looseness in a club act that you don't have when you're in the confines of a script. You know, you're there with the people, and every night it's different because the crowd is different, and you can juggle the songs around and decide what you feel like singing that particular night. So it is interesting.
What kind of music are you attracted to?
I like all kinds of music. I think my favorite music is probably show music, but I love pop. I love R&B. I like all kinds of music. I like some new wave. I like music generally, I'd say. And I also like listening to classical music to relax.
Well, our time is up, and
Okay.
we have had a really nice time with you here, and thank you for stopping by. This is Rian Keating, and you've been watching Spotlight with guest Theresa Saldana. If you have any comments or suggestions, or if you would like to receive our program guide, you can write to myself in care of Perot Productions, 640 10th Avenue, New York, New York, 10036. Until next week, this is Rian Keating for Spotlight.